See one is queuing up, and we're live. Hey, Jeremy, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
First of all, I'm super excited to have you here. You're always just such a pleasure to talk to. I know you've been on Mike's and Mimosas, and I know one time we made you spit your wine out.
Yes, you did.
We sorry. But it's just a joy. And then you ended up coming back as a panelist, and that conversation was really good. So just glad to have you here. You're there in Shreveport, between Shreveport and Baton Rouge. And just what you being on the Mark Coley Business Academy, your professionalism, that's what stuck out to me more than anything. It's just your level of professionalism. You're always so pulled together, very articulate. And I was like, oh, who is that? And then you're just funny. And I was like, man, I got to connect with this guy. Like, he's cool. I like him. And you know how to have fun. Like, I've seen you on social media, little crab boils and stuff. I'm like, I need to make a trip to the bayou.
You'll have to come down and visit so I can, cook up and get a couple things. I do like to cook, so do seafood boil, crab boil.
I've never been to one. I never had one.
Of course, make you some gumbo. If it's warm when you come, we have to drop the AC down and make it feel like it's cold on the outside and cook you a good big old pot of gumbo or something. But yeah, come down here and have a good time. See how we do it down here in Louisiana.
Definitely. I've never been to a crab boil. I've never had crab legs. I've never done any of that. Don't look at me like
Come
that.
on now, really? With all this steaming money and stuff out here, ain't nobody invited you over to no crab leg? No crab boil.
No. Because the thing is, we're also live on Instagram. Hey Willie, hey Dre. But also being in the military, I kind of became a food snob when it came to seafood, because being on the water, so accustomed to being on the water. So it was like, if it's not, I don't see them catching it, I'm not going to eat it. So that's kind of been my thing. But I trust you. I've seen your receipt. Huh?
We have to change that. Get you into some good old some Gulf seafood.
Yes. Well, I was stationed in Pensacola, and I did like the shrimp down there. I like it. So definitely I'll have to. And I've always wanted to go across Lake Pontchartrain. That's always been one of my things I wanted to do, like right across it. So
you want to go across the causeway, the 20 something miles of just water.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Gotcha. So, so it's really good to have you here, and we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to hop right into our conversation. So what's up, everybody? Shout out to everybody on Instagram Live. Thank you for joining me. Shout out to Stephen. He's all the way from Kenya. He's a part of the Kenyan Parliament. So we got an international viewer tonight. Yeah, so with that being said, hey, everybody, what's up? It's your girl, Camille Essick. I'm host of the Speaker Podcast, the podcast where innovators and creators connect. And tonight I have my brother on here. His name is Jeremy Jackson, representing the Bayou. He can introduce himself better than I can. So, Jeremy, take it away.
Yes, good evening. I'm Jeremy Jackson. I am the president and CEO of Jeremy Jackson Insurance and Financial Services, located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We service 5 states: Louisiana, Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, and Virginia. I've been in the insurance and financial services business for 20 years now. I was formerly affiliated with State Farm Insurance. I did that for many, many years, and last year, I decided to part ways and start my own insurance agency, and I have been doing that almost a year now. So I'm glad to be here tonight with you, and thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. And it's so great to have you. So, Jeremy, first of all, one of the things I noticed about you through your social media, you're a giver. Like, you're very entrenched with your community. You're not just about business, but you're about giving. And I actually had a conversation today with Lisa. Shout out to Lisa, Quick Copy Print. We were talking about how you can incorporate giving back and being connected with the community through your brand. And I see you do that, not just here and there, but it's a part of you. So can you kind of touch on that as far as the importance of giving through your brand and the law of reciprocity through branding?
When I first started in the business, with State Farm back in 2008. And one of the things that I focused on was community branding. So letting the community know that not only was our business owner there, but I was a part of the community. Because one thing that people love to feel is that you are a part of them. So not only did where my office was located, that's where I did business, but I lived in the same neighborhood. So I lived 3 streets down from the office. So the clients saw me all the time. They saw, me give back to the community. They saw me, be a part of the schools, sponsor DECA programs, bring kids in and do professional training with them, provide jobs for them, and do things of that nature. And so, as you pass that on, those that transpires and comes back to you in the form of blessings, as far as business and referrals and things of that nature. So it's always important to embrace the people around you and embrace the community, because then in turn, that's where your your support, your business, your blessings really come from. A lot of people in this business, especially insurance, they do a lot of cold calling. They do a lot of buying leads and things of that nature. And I would tell you, over the years, I did a lot of direct mail, so I sent a lot of mail pieces out. But as far as calling and cold calling and things of that nature, the referral was my biggest part of my business, and that came through branding me, myself, the business, and embracing the community. So I embraced the community, and the community embraced me. That's how it works. You have to, I'm a part of an organization called BNI, and they have a philosophy that's called giver's gain. You give in order to, you give, and as you give, you gain that back in your business. That's one of our philosophies. It's giver's gain. You give it to receive it back.
So, you said something very important when you mentioned the community. I think one of the things, particularly with Black businesses, is that lack of trust. And I think it's very important to have, within your brand narrative, to build the trust, because if you want people to do business with you, they have to trust you as a person. And in order to do that, you have to show up, and not just Christmas, seeing me Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter. You need to be there 24/7. You have to show up, know the neighbors. Hey, if you see them in the store, because after a while, they're like, you know what, Mr. Jackson, he's all right. I think I will reach out to him. And they'll be more likely to contact you versus someone with a cold call, because they have a rapport with you.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that I always did, and a lot of I got my clients, spoiled on, was that sense of touch and that sense of personal relationship that we had with each other. They just weren't clients. I was their friend. I'm their friend. And
Right.
so I can tell you how many times I went and delivered ID cards on the side of the road to somebody who got pulled over by the police, showed up at accidents. I had one client whose vehicle got struck by lightning on the way to a family vacation during the 4th of July. And he had no idea how he was going to transport it. So I rented an SUV, a Suburban. I drove 3 hours, picked him and his family up, and brought them back to Baton Rouge and got him into his next rental. And so it was just like, he was like, man, it's stuff like that, those are stories that they tell their children. And so you look at their kids, and as their kids grow up, both of his sons bought vehicles. They didn't even have any question about who they were going to do their insurance, but they called me, Mr. Jeremy, I need you to do my insurance, because it's passed down through generations and generations. When you build that family trust and you build that relationship, your referral it's in place forever, because people know you and they trust you, and you have to be transparent and truthful with people in business so that you can retain that trust. I never tried to pull a wool over anybody's eyes about anything. I'm always forthcoming, probably a little bit more than what a lot of people would like for me to be, but I just can't be anywhere. I don't know how to be any other way. And so I do for people what I want people to do for me.
So, okay, I have someone that's asked a question. They want to know, why did you choose insurance as a career, and what is the motivation?
Okay, so funny story. Insurance kind of chose me. And I say that because I was a bank teller and I got offered a job in insurance. I was 18, 19 years old in college. I was majoring in electrical engineering at the time, but I was also working. So I started working in insurance, just got a feel for it. I'm one of those individuals when I get into something, I'm going to put 100% into it. So got
Right.
into it, started learning the business and decided, oh, it's not that bad.
Right.
I looked at the individual I work for, the agent I work for. He was very successful. He was making decent money. I'm like, okay, this looks really good. And so we talked about it. I decided to change my major to accounting, and I graduated and went to work in insurance for State Farm as a agency field specialist, which was like kind of a corporate role. So I stopped selling insurance for a local agent and went into the corporate side of the company. The job that I did at that time had no career progression. It was like one of those things that you could do this for 30 years and retire. But if you want to move up the ladder, you had to do some lateral moves and things. And this insurance agency opportunity became available. I looked into it, weighed the pros and cons. I knew I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I knew I wanted to be in a business where I could help people. And that's what this insurance career allowed me to do. It allowed me to become an entrepreneur, and it allowed me to be in a business where I could help individuals better their quality of life and protect things that are important to them. So it's been very, very, very rewarding. Each and every day that I sit down and I talk to clients about things, it motivates me to go out to do more, to educate individuals about insurance and financial services. Because as we was talking earlier, a lot of individuals are professionals in professions that they're in. So, people only know what they know.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance is one of those things that's so vast that people don't go in depth about what it really is and what it really does. And a lot of times they get a bad taste in their mouth about insurance because they weren't properly educated in the beginning on what they purchased, and they didn't find out that wasn't what it was until claim time. Something happens and they need it, and then it doesn't do what they thought it should do, and then they're upset. So my motivation is always to educate people about this is what insurance is, this is what it does, this is what you need, and this is why. And so that's kind of it in a nutshell for me.
Okay, so we need to just cut to the chase. I can be blunt. And the thing, you probably already know I'm going to ask you, is my thing. I hate GoFundMe. GoFundMe has its place and its purpose, but GoFundMe is not, hold on, people on Instagram, hear me when I say this. GoFundMe is not life insurance. Let's just have that conversation. First of all, let's talk about why it's not life insurance. 2, how easy it is to obtain even the smallest policy, because it just burns me up. I've seen so many people throughout their life, they're on social media flexing with the Gucci belts and the hair and great balls and the lashes. Then you die, now it's a GoFundMe. Why?
So, life insurance, I had a conversation last week with another colleague of ours from the 6 a.m. accountability call with shout out to Sam. She brought me on and we had a conversation about generational wealth and wealth building. And we went into this life insurance thing. Life insurance is one of those things that, creates generational wealth. Mm-hmm. It is one of the only assets that is passed outside of probate. And what that means is that when a person dies, there's a named beneficiary who gets paid a benefit based off of whatever the policy did. Whereas with real property, say for instance, houses or commercial buildings or cars or cash or any of that other stuff like that, those real assets have to go through a probate. So you have to file a succession. It has to go through the court. That has to happen. Life insurance is one of those only things that is outside of probate. You name a beneficiary, they get paid. So that's motivation for individuals, number one, to purchase life insurance, because at the time of death at the time of someone passing, you don't have to wait for this long process to get access to the assets that are set aside. Number two, you have so many different types of life insurance. You have term life, you have whole life. The term life, is life insurance based for a certain amount of years, a certain term, and then you have your whole life insurance, which is more like building cash value equity. It's what we call a permanent life insurance policy. Both of them offer great benefits. Term life is more affordable, of course, because typically there's no other additional rewards that come along with term life like there are with whole life policies, which is a little bit more expensive. But on average, for the average person between, I would say, 18 to 25, you could probably purchase $250,000 worth of term life insurance for less than $20-$30 a month.
That's like a couple times through Chick-fil-A. Like, that's nothing.
I mean, that if you drive Lyft, that's one good Lyft trip. You know what I'm saying?
A good old Uber to the airport.
I mean, you get somebody up that you pick up one ride to the airport. That's it. If you cut hair, it's one haircut. If you style hair, it's a shampoo and style. It's so many things that you can put it down into simplistic. Everybody, I can't afford that. Yes, you can. People can afford what they want to afford. We know that because you just made the example about individuals, with the labels and the name brands. But I think if people really educate themselves about life insurance and the benefits of it, we talked about living benefits that come along with life insurance on last week. When it comes to whole life, more people would purchase it because they would understand why. I think one of the things from last week that came up was we talked about how I shared that I borrowed from my whole life insurance to purchase my first home. And Sam was kind of blown away, and I was telling her about what we consider the living benefit.
Can you kind of break that down? Because I was listening, I was in the audience on that conversation, and hearing that prompted me to get the whole life insurance, because through my job, I have life insurance for $400,000, and then through the VA, I have another $100,000, which I want to increase that. But then hearing you guys talk, I was like, but what about whole life insurance? And that's what prompted me to add on another 100,000, because I was like, well, it's a smaller amount in terms in the world of whole life insurance. But I was like, So can you kind of break that down, like exactly how that works?
Okay, so we talked about term life and whole life. So term life is just like the example I gave last week was renting. It's like renting an apartment. It's there for a certain term, 10, 20, 30 years. After that, it renews. The premium change, it can increase. There's nothing that you gain from it after that term or that contract expires. Whereas with whole life, it's more like owning a home. It builds equity. There's what you call the cash value. And as you own the policy and you pay into the policy, some whole life policies, they earn dividends and interest, and that builds up in the cash value. Well, that is your asset inside of the whole life insurance. So you're able to borrow that and use that, at any time if you need it. If you
so
cancel,
let me ask you this question though. So if you, like, for example, I just got the $100,000 policy. It's a new policy. What could I do with that?
You said what?
What could I do with that?
Okay, so you have $100,000 whole life policy. So say you have it and it's 5 years down the road, right? And you are buying a home and you're trying to get your assets together and you're trying to figure out, what it needs, and you need $10,000 and you have it in your whole life insurance. You could call them and say, hey, I need to do a loan against my whole life for $10,000. Can you send me a check? And they're going to cut you a check. And then they'll give you an option on, repaying the loan back to the whole life policy at an interest rate that's very, favorable to you. And, you're done. As long as you pay the premiums on the policy, they'll tell you that, hey, you can choose to pay this back. Know that it will gain interest, if you don't. But, at the time of death, if you haven't paid this loan back to the policy, then we're going to take that loan out of the cash value and the death benefit at death. So that's pretty much how it works and how it is.
So for those that are still not convinced when we're looking at the GoFundMe, first of all, why do you feel like people, particularly within our community, feel like that's the go-to? Like I don't understand. Like
I think a lot of things what happen is that a lot of people, especially in our community, they purchase term life insurance, okay, or they purchase life insurance from one of those debit agents, what we refer to them in the insurance world. It's one of those individuals that come around to the house with the little black book, and they sold grandma the life insurance on the front porch. One of those individuals. Well, some of those policies had pros and cons to it, and different things and clauses where at the time of death that you paid this for years. You've seen this man come along or this lady come along and collect money, and then at time of death, you're like, okay, this it.
That's what they called something bond. I'm not going to say the word, but it was a derogatory word they attached to that years ago. I remember hearing that.
And so you have people who be like, man, their life insurance, because my grandma paid into it for all them years, and then they ain't giving nothing at death. So you have that type of stigma that you're fighting against.
Yeah.
At some point in time, because people don't realize, number one, over 90% of term life insurance don't pay out. And when I say don't pay out, I mean that and the reason I say that is because the statistics show that most term life insurance, that people either outlive the term, which means if it's a 5, 10, 20, 30 years, they live longer than that, the policy expire, they don't renew it. So that money they paid into it is just gone. Or
wait a minute. So your grandmother, your auntie, Big Mama, Medea, they bought this policy 20, 30 years, and let's say it terminates at 70, year 71, they outlive it or they forget to renew it. So all that money is just gone.
Yep, gone.
That's crazy.
But that's what you purchased. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's like literally you could have just lit the money on fire. Like if you think about Big Mama, Grandma, whomever, for the last 30, 40 years, taking grandpa's pension, paying this plan, and it never pays out. Like
that's what you purchased, though. And so that's where the educational piece comes in, and educating people on what they should do, how they should do it, and why and when. There's nothing wrong with purchasing a term policy, because term insurance a lot of times does things for a certain reason. Like for example, if I have a 30-year mortgage, I'll buy a 30-year term life insurance policy to cover the mortgage. After the mortgage is gone, I really don't care about the life insurance. No, people do that, but it's bought with a purpose. If I have, 3 school age children, you know what I'm saying? And I'm a working class family where I'm the breadwinner, right? So I'm married, and me and my spouse, we have 3 children. I'm the breadwinner, and I need, $2 million of insurance, but I can't afford $2 million of whole life. I'm going to buy a $2 million term, because if something happens to me prematurely, I want to make sure my family is taken care of. So that's what term insurance will allow me to protect my family at the time they need. Now, once my kids got to the point where they're adults, then I don't need that $2 million. I'll revisit my life insurance plan, and we'll talk about some other things and making sure that I have whole life in place, or some other things there to take care of my final expenses. But if I was to die prematurely, term insurance will allow me to protect my family at the amount that it would take for them to survive post me.
So what is a good age for someone to purchase term insurance? Like what's a good number?
You mean a good number for the amount?
Age, yeah.
I mean, if you are, you can purchase term insurance starting at 18. It's an excellent age to purchase it. It's excellent age to purchase insurance, period. But the thing about it is that insurance should be reevaluated on an annual basis. And that's what most individuals do not do. When the insurance agent starts to call them, they run from the call. because they think, oh, I'm trying to sell something. Oh, he's trying to sell me something else. No, I'm trying to make sure you're still good, because I sold this 5 years ago and I haven't talked to you since then. I don't know if you've added, debt. I don't know if you have got married. I don't know if you have children. I'm trying to see if what the product I sold you still fits your need. If you don't ever answer my phone call, I don't know that. And then if something happens, now your spouse, your mama, your auntie, whoever, is left behind, looking at me crazy like, well, why didn't you? Well, I tried to call her for 5 years. She wouldn't answer my phone call. So another thing is that, you have to educate people. When the insurance representative called, when the financial consultant called, when the investment guy called, you got to take the call. Because a lot of times they're trying to bring you up to speed of what's going on now, trying to make sure that what they did for you works for you now. Because life changes, things happen. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Everybody's life has changed in the last year and a half. How business is done has changed. The needs have changed, and one of those things that a lot of people realize, they lost their job. They lost their insurance. A lot of people lost their life insurance because they didn't own any policies outside of work. So now they're stuck. Well, if that person had pre-existing conditions, it's hard for them to get life insurance in the regular market, because when you're a part of a group, they can't discriminate. So you're able to go in and purchase the life insurance, and it's made available to you because it's bought under a group policy. So there's not a lot of discrimination when it comes to what are your pre-existing conditions. We're going to charge you more for this, that, and the other. Well, when you lose that opportunity to purchase that group insurance on your employer, then what you go do? Because you never put anything in place outside of work. And that's what happened with a lot of individuals. You talk to them, oh, I got it on my job. Oh, I got it on my job. Oh, it's on my job.
But that's why I did it through the VA and then the whole life outside of the VA, because thank God, my job has been good throughout the pandemic. Like you said, a lot of people lost their jobs, but I picked up the additional money through the VA because I was like, what if the job goes away? And it's not to be negative, but it happens. And I was like, well, if the job were to go away, I still need to have life insurance, Absolutely. And then even with that, I was like, well, listening to you and Samantha, I was like, oh, well, let me get whole life. So I have my life insurance with my job. I have my life insurance with the VA, and then I have my whole life, because I feel like you can never have too much insurance. Like,
then you don't control the job insurance either. They own the policy.
Right.
It's a group policy owned by your employer. Yeah, you pay the premium, you would choose your beneficiary, but the contents of what type policy is, who is with, what it does, all that is controlled by the employer.
Mm-hmm. So we have a question from the audience. They want to know what, for those that live in high risk or neighborhoods that have a higher propensity for crime or violence, what would be good for them as far as insurance?
What you mean as far as life insurance?
I think that's what she's meaning. She's just asking what would be good insurance for those that live in, like, I guess, areas with higher crime.
I mean, so any insurance would be good. We want people to live as long as we wanted to. So, whole life is, I'm a big advocate of whole life insurance. I love it. I love the things that it allow you to do. But term, I always tell people, some insurance is better than no insurance, even if individuals want to only do insurance to cover the final expenses. Because a lot of times, that's a battle that you fight. Oh, I ain't trying to leave her rich. I ain't trying to leave him rich. I don't want him taking care of no other woman with my money. I don't want her taking care of no other man with my money. I don't, so you have to deal with that. I'm serious. You have to deal with that. My question to people all the time be, are you going to give them any options? Are you going to give them any options? And I say that because I remember, this is 2001, so that had to be 27 years ago. My aunt lost her husband on Thanksgiving Day in a tragic car accident on his way home from work. She was a housewife. She hadn't worked in 24 years before he died. She hadn't worked in 27 years post his death. And the reason why she hadn't is because he gave her options. He had his business in order. He had life insurance in place. Things were taken care of. So he gave her the option on whether she wanted to choose to replace him or not. And that's one of the things that I always express with people. Most people get remarried after the loss of their husband or spouse. Not a lot of times because they want to, but financially they have to because they breadwinner gone. You know what I'm saying? They help gone. So they got to find somebody else to help because you didn't give them no options. You have no life insurance together. You didn't have none of your other business in order. You know what I'm saying? So you left this person back here with, debt and children and all this other stuff. They got to figure out, how can I replace you? So you want to replace you with another person or replace you with life insurance that you set up for them? What you want to do?
Yeah, this is something that I said today. I said for me, one of the reasons why I have so much life insurance, I've seen not having it, what it does to the family, when they die, your family, your loved ones, your friends, they can't even grieve properly because they're so stressed out financially. And I'm like, that's so unfair. And then some people, they can't even grieve because you're dead and they're mad at you.
But
and I don't want my loved ones, friends, whomever, being where they can't even grieve me properly because you worried about money or you're fighting about money. And that's why I have a will. And I also have life insurance because there's enough going on in this world that I don't want to add on in my death more grief and stress because I wasn't doing my part when I was alive.
I tell this to families and parents a lot of times when I sell children life insurance, because the first thing they want to come in and they'll say, oh, just give me $10,000 on a child, give me $25,000 on a child. And I said, well, what are you going to do if you lose a child prematurely to a tragic accident? I ain't trying to get rich off my child. I'm not trying to let you get rich off your child, but I'm trying to give you some options. So I would quote somebody straight off $100,000, $250,000 on a child, whole life, because I said, what happens if something happens to your kid one day and you can't even grieve your child because you got to go back to work? See, that's what when you have this set up, this is what it does for you. It'll give you time to grieve. If you lost your child prematurely and they only give you with them 3 days, and maybe you burn all your vacation days,
and maybe five, maybe 5.
And say you don't care, and you go off on FMLA and you go on for the 3 months. At least if you had a sound plan together, it would give you options. You know what I'm saying? Financially, you're not worried about anything. You're not stressed. You're able to grieve. You're able to get yourself back together. Those are the things that I try to express to people. That is what life insurance helps do. It helps you with the grieving process, So it's just one of those educational pieces. And I had one lady tell me, I never thought about it that way. You're right. If I lost my child tomorrow, I wouldn't want to go back to work. I appreciate that. Not only that, but in children life insurance, you can set them up for the future. So, you have that in place. And then once they're adult, they don't have to worry about, the whole life insurance piece, because if you paid it up in advance, because there are policies out there that you can pay for in advance for the kids and it's paid for, it's paid off. It's a gift. That's a leg up. That's a leg up for a lot of individuals.
Yeah, I think us, particularly within our community, we definitely need to take on a different mindset and a different attitude when it comes to life insurance. GoFund Me is not life insurance. Like you said before, it takes a lot of stress off loved ones. If you were to pass away prematurely, as far as if you need time from work and you burn that PTO. And it's just like you need a break and mentally check out because you feel like, I'll be okay. People grieve differently, and things come out when someone dies, and you need time to emotionally process that, spiritually process that. And life insurance gives you that breathing space, that cushion to be able to do so. That's imperative that you have it.
And one thing that I also want to bring to the forefront is because a lot of people don't think of it this way. State fence is you well off. Okay, you got a lot of assets. You know, commercial property. You know, you feel like I'm gonna leave my family well off, and you got all these real assets. And you got that estate tax you got to deal with, right? Okay, so where the money gonna come from to pay for the estate taxes? So a lot of times people don't think about, okay, I need to make sure I got this in life insurance so my family can take care of estate taxes and protect what I done work for. They don't have to sell it off. You know what I'm saying? So it's so many layers to that. It's just not for, you know, individuals to think about it in a perspective, because you have people out there who listen to this conversation and be like, well, I'm good. I mean, I got assets. My kid gonna be good. I'm gonna leave them 4, 5, 6 buildings. You know, I got cash in the bank. I got all this other stuff. Yeah, but if estate taxes have to be applied to that, then how they gonna pay the estate taxes? You might want to get you some life insurance in place to cover your estate taxes as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's one of those things that, you know, it comes to, you know, talking to a trusted advisor, who's going to really look at what you have going on holistically and choose the right plan and path for you.
That's really good, Jeremy. You've just given a wealth of knowledge. I know we began this conversation talking about the law of reciprocity and how important it is to give and be a sower in your community. So thank you for sharing that as well. In addition to your knowledge about the importance of life insurance, what would you say if you had to leave anybody with like a takeaway or a nugget? What do you think that would be?
If I had to leave anybody with a takeaway or a nugget today, you know, regarding this conversation, it would be, if you haven't reviewed your life insurance plan in the last 12 months, you need to make that priority number one. Because as life has changed, one of the things that I've noticed in this business for many, many years is that beneficiaries are not reviewed. So you have individuals who did put things in place and thought they had things together, and, you know, something happens and someone ended up getting the funds that they had no desire to get them anymore, you know. So take time to review and handle your business and make sure that things are the way that you want them to be, because life changes and today is changing so fast. You know, my thing is just don't think, oh, I have that in place, I'm good. Because you may have it in place, but if you put it in place 20 years ago, is it in place today the way you would want it to be?
Really good. I like it. So where can people contact you on social media, or just want to reach out and get more information from you, or to get insurance? What can they do that?
On social media, on Instagram, it's JRJackson_FS. On Facebook, I'm Jeremy Jackson. On Clubhouse, I am Jeremy Jackson, JJIA Agency. And by phone, it's 844-355-7766.
Can you repeat that one more time?
844-355.
Repeat the number one more time. Yeah.
844-355-7766. And by email, it's jeremy@jeremyrjackson.com.
Awesome. I love it. Well, I hope everyone there that's been here with me on Instagram Live and Twitch Live, YouTube Live, and Facebook Live, I hope you really got something from this conversation. Jeremy, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. I'm so glad that you were here. And for anyone else, just thank you for the questions. We had a lot of good comments and questions. Someone said good information. Hey, LaFadio, very important to have life insurance outside of your employer. That's exactly right. So with that being said, everybody, this is Camille Essick. I'm host of the Speaker Podcast. And until next time, be blessed. Thank you, Instagram. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. Good night.